I would like to call the Carson City Consolidated Municipality notice of the meeting of the Audit Committee to order. And I guess that was a long-winded. I'd like to call the Audit Committee to order. See, my mom always said that, okay, pressure's off. You already made your goof, so the rest is good. So can we have a roll call, please?
Chair Schutte,
Here.
Vice Chair Lambin.
Here.
Member Duke.
Here.
Member Scalia.
Here.
Member Stack. Here. A quorum is present.
Great, thank you. And our next is public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of this public body. Would anyone like to make a public comment? Okay. Then the next item for possible action, approval of minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the September 19th, 2023 minutes? Okay. Is there any discussion or changes? All right, would someone like to make a motion?
Sure, I move to approve the minutes of September 19th, 2023.
And I would second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And abstain. And, right. My understanding, though, is even if you're not here, if you have read the minutes, then one can vote. Is that correct? Okay.
Right, and it's fine to abstain for right now, but it's entirely correct, Chair Schutte, that you may review the previous meeting and compare with the minutes that are provided in order to decide whether to vote on it or not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Then we will move on to item 5A for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding the monitoring, review, and closure of internal audit findings and/or recommendations included in the audit finding tracking report and providing a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors to close completed findings and/or recommendations. Sherry Russell-Benaboo, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, thank you. So on the front page there, I've included several, I've got an update. The IT vulnerability testing isn't due to give you an update until, I think, January of 25. And the preliminary body-worn camera, same thing, no items were due today, so we're not going to be doing an update. But we will on the utility billing audit, and then there's some recommended closures on the grants compliance audit and the clerk's office. So let me go through some updates for you. I try to do this on all of them. So the first one is the community development audit. If you turn the page, I've crossed out January 1st of 2024, and we've added January 1st of 2025. And then you'll notice about halfway through the status comments, there's update in bold. And so that's really the department head has given us an update of what's going on.
I'm sorry, can you back up a little bit?
Yes.
So which page is that?
Page
12. Okay. So then,
Yeah, we're on the community development internal audit. So basically this has to do with the portal for EnerGov.
okay. Thank you.
And that never worked quite right. And so they shut it down because all of our developers and people needing business licenses and building permits were getting very frustrated. So we did it old school where you come in and you pay. However, we have found an interface that will hopefully make it work better. So what they're doing is in-house, they're going to implement this interface. They're doing a lot of testing and printing and making sure that it works correctly before they implement it, which is going to take time since we're doing it in-house. So they have asked to move that to January of 2025 for full implementation. They don't want the debacle last time either, so they definitely want to make sure it works before they go live. And then I believe on page 2, on the next page, there's item number 6. That one was also due today. but we're moving the date to 7/1/24. And I just had a meeting yesterday about this. They have found a contractor to look at the fees and make sure that the fees are covering what the building permit actually costs for inspections and all that. We haven't done that for like 15 years. So, the department head of the community development department found a company, and so we're gonna try to work that into the 25 budget, because it's gonna be approximately $50,000 to do that analysis. It's several departments, salaries, and then determining also what Charles Abbott's portion costs, and then if the whole fee pays for that. So it's quite a bit of work. So we're gonna try to see if we can get that into the budget. So as of 7/1/2024, we'll be giving you an update of, yes, we got funded, or no, we didn't. So we'll be able to determine if we're gonna roll that forward or if we're gonna fund that. The IT vulnerability update, we don't have one on, and the body worn camera, so I'm going to utility billing is the next one. And so on item number 4 of utility billing, they want to push that to 7/1/24. Unfortunately, our utility manager left the city, and he was the one working on this. So we're asking to move that to 7/1/2024 so that the newly appointed gentleman can get up to speed and finish this project. Item number 6, they have hired a consultant. This was where there were 4,629 accounts that didn't have one of water, sewer, or stormwater. But there are legitimate reasons for that. I mean, some people have a well, so they don't need water. So there are legitimate reasons why you wouldn't have all 3 on your bill. But they wanted us to, the process was to go through and look at each one of those bills and make sure that they were correct. So we have hired a consultant to do that. The consultant thinks they'll be complete in spring of 2024. So again, we're pushing that forward 7/1/2024 just to make sure it gets done. If it's earlier, we'll definitely bring it to the March meeting. And then item number 7, this one is complete, but it's in the DA's office for review, so it's not quite complete. So when it's done with the DA's office, basically whatever happens here will end up, if we increase fees, obviously we have to have the Board of Supervisors approval for that. If it's staying the same, so this one's kind of, we're waiting for the DA's review to be done before we can move forward.
So the DA's decision is dependent on number 6 in terms of the fees and the coverage and making sure.
Not really,
Or-
because 6 is about all the water bills,
Oh,
and so certain water bills don't have water because they may have a well.
right.
But so that's all water bills, whereas this one is basically violations and penalties. So if you're late paying your water bill, they were saying that they thought benchmarking our fees were low. So I know that the department looked at that and they updated the CCMCs on it, but obviously the DA's office has to review that before we can do anything. So they're working with the DA's office. Once they review it, if they determine that it is recommended that we increase fees, they would take that to the board, and then we would implement those fees. But we can't really do anything until the DA's office reviews it, so.
Okay.
The grants compliance, the next one, we are recommending items number 1.1 and 1.2 be closed. So this is that spreadsheet that we have that includes all grants. We do have it included on Teams now. And all of the people have access to that spreadsheet. All of the different departments, the grants program managers have access to that program. And so they're supposed to be updating that as they get new grants, or at a minimum quarterly. My grants administrator would then go in quarterly and make sure that these changes are being made. She's going to compare the spreadsheet to what we have in Munis, which is our revenue and expense system, so we can make sure that what we're actually getting in revenue and is on this spreadsheet and being tracked. And then we can bust departments that don't keep up on their spreadsheet. So I was going to stop here and say, we do have that little budget for validation. So typically I'll do this. I'll work with IT or whoever I need to make sure that what we've said is done is really done. But this is my department. So if you want to validate this and have the auditor double check and make sure that I did it, that's your call. Perfectly, there's always a double check. So this is me and there's no double check. So so if you want to send that validation and make sure that this is happening, feel free.
Does
Oh.
anyone have a question on that?
Yeah.
Being new,
Uh-huh.
I'm just curious because I come from a county background and every department managed their grants and the contracts went to the auditors so they could pay the expenses that were not normal personnel, et cetera. How many grants approximately does the city have?
I haven't done a count recently, but it's around 100.
Okay, thank you.
We're a consolidated city and county, so I like to say we have all the problems of both. So we have public safety grants, we've got health grants, okay, so to move on to the clerk recorders, information technology. There's 3, I believe we can close on that one. Item number 3. So this is where the landmark system, the users weren't being updated, so the old users were not being removed. And I got word from the clerk that this is completed. He's going to put it on the calendar to make sure it's removed. They're removed quarterly. And then number 5, this is about the firewall controls. And this is complete. A standard SOP has been established and is active. And will be happen on a quarterly basis. And then number 7, this is the data loss prevention we talked about last time that wasn't quite complete as of 9/5. It was that force point that wasn't quite implemented. Our last meeting was on 9/5. It was finalized on 9/6, so it is complete. So I did keep that open just because it wasn't quite complete yet. So those are our recommended closures and extensions. Do we have any questions or comments or?
Does anyone have a question, comment?
We can direct to validate some of this stuff before we close it. That's fair. It's fine.
Well, I appreciate the phone call yesterday.
Sure.
And Mr. Hohen, thank you I've followed up in terms of on number 3, the city will coordinate with Caddis and Landmark, the removal of accounts and the clerk recorder. He's saying he's personally doing that, so. I
Oh, okay. So
appreciate
he has
that.
access to the system. Okay.
Right, oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was a very good question.
So that was, my question on who actively or actually removes the user when employment status has changed. And then my question on number 5, so the process is scheduled on a quarterly basis, and does IT reach out to clerk recorder's office or is it scheduled automatically, or how does that work? Or, sorry. For the SOP.
Frank Abella, CIO, for the record. It is, basically, we have a standard operating procedures that once a quarter, they review the firewalls and everything else of that nature. That gets recorded into a change management process. Anytime anybody wants to pull that record out, it's available at any time. Does the clerk recorder need to be notified? Yes, we'll be notifying him at that time and everything else. So,
Okay, so quarterly, you will automatically review and then notify of your.
that is correct.
Okay,
That
thank
is
you for
correct.
the clarification. There, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to Do we have a motion? Go ahead.
I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors closing the items discussed based on the correction of findings and recommendations included in the audit findings tracking report.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Then we will move on to agenda item, thank you. Agenda item 5B for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding the Carson City DevNet system for the Assessor's Office Internal Audit Program fiscal year 23-24. A report with recommendations on agreed-upon procedures prepared by the Carson City Internal Auditor, Ide Bailey LLP, for the fiscal year 2024 audit work program. Sherry.
Thank you
take it
very
away.
much. I'm going to start this by saying this is our last audit program. We have to review that. All the other ones have been reviewed and they're working on the internal audits as we speak. But this one we hadn't reviewed yet. So this is the DevNet system. This is our property tax system. And this is the last audit work program we'll have to review, or list of agreed upon procedures we're going to have to review. So I will turn it over to Audrey to go over those. Or Catherine, whoever's.
Excellent, thank you. Sorry, I've been having some issues with technology this morning. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, I've restarted my computer since I've been on this call a couple of times, and hopefully you guys were able to hear me. So yes, you'll have in front of you the DevNet system for the Assessor's Office, the Internal Audit Program for FY 23-24. We are looking to kick this off immediately upon your approval. We will need to take what I consider a soft pause on the engagement in the month of February, as the Assessor's Office has the Board of Equalization deadline and they move into the appeals process around the second week of February. So we'll kick this off in January and pick this back up in March and wrap up sometime in April. It'll be a pretty quick process. And from the audit program, you can see that we are focused on information at how it is entered into the system. It is a third-party system managed by a vendor and used by the Assessor's Office. So quality control and assurance on completeness and accuracy of data entering the system is important. The review and what security access is baked into the system and those preventative controls, as well as the data at rest with the vendor and their controls, and then the retrieval of data. So the reporting in the process of the information and the reliance of the information as it's removed from the system. And that is our audit program, roughly 11 steps, and that would be wrapped up sometime March, early April. Any questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions? No, it looks like everyone is comfortable with that. Any suggestions? No? Okay. That is it. So is someone prepared to make a motion? Okay, thank you.
I move to direct Ide Bailey and staff to proceed with the audit of DevNet system for the Assessor's Office Internal Audit Program, including agreed-upon procedures as discussed on the record.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I would second a motion.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. And my mistake, if when you are making a motion or seconding, if you could state your name for the record, that would be helpful. Thank you, and I'll do the same. All right, we will now move on to agenda item 5C. For discussion only, discussion regarding fiscal year 2024 audit work program update and hotline security. Sherry. Audrey.
Thank you again. And yes, I am pleased to share with you that we jump into the fraud hotline system and periodically check on whether or not there's any cases out there. And I'm pleased to report that there has not been any filings, no reports, and normally we would get something strange, reporting something around their bank or their neighbor having too many cats or something unusual like that, but nothing really related to the city. And in this case, we haven't seen anything even unusual come through since May of last year. And it is coming to our annual review process where we test the system to make sure that it is responding appropriately and that we do receive that communication back through the system. So we'll be reaching out to the hotline and testing that and give you an update in our next meeting on whether or not that's working effectively, which I'm assuming it is, but we still want to test it.
Yeah,
And then from here,
HR is supposed to put it in the newsletter twice a year, so I'll double check and make sure that's still happening.
excellent, that'd be great.
Sure.
Great, and that was my question, is how often is it tested? Or,
As far
Followed
as
up on-
testing, that would be Audrey, because I don't even have access to that system.
okay. Audrey, how often is that system tested?
We test it annually,
Okay.
making sure that it still operates effectively as intended. And we tested it last year and it was successful, and we'll test it again this year and provide you with that update.
Great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much. And then our next item.
Do
Oh,
we want, I'm sorry, Audrey, do you want to let them know where you are with the audit work program? Like, because I think
Yes,
you're really
so-
close on one of the audits.
Yes, so the overall fiscal year 23-24 internal audit program that Sherry's referring to is the annual audit program. And we have what we consider 3 buckets. The first bucket is all the internal audit related activities that include monitoring the fraud, waste, and abuse hotline, performing any follow-up activities that are deemed necessary to determine whether the identified risks from prior internal audits have been remediated. And the third item in that category is the risk assessment update that we'll be performing. Concluding this meeting, we will start working on that to update and develop the annual audit plan for FY 24-25 based on the identified risks identified. So from this category, we had budgeted $16,375, of which we've expended roughly $1,000. So we have roughly $15,375 remaining, which is what we'll need for the remaining of the work. The second category is the proposed internal audits. And we have completed, as you know, the clerk recorder information technology audit. And we will be kicking off the DubNet system for the assessor's office. We are currently working on cash handling internal audit, and we are about 80% through our testing, and we'll be wrapping up here in the next week and working on our draft internal audit report. At this time, we do not have any findings. We have looked at prior findings and risks in different departments. We have tested the methodology within the, did I say cash handling? Yeah, within the treasurer's office. And we're also testing one of the departments that is more from a reputational perspective and objective is the public guardian, and looking at their processes and the individuals that they work with and the monies and assets that are under their purview. So at this time, we do not have any issues or findings to report, and we will be working on that draft report, circulating that internally to the department and Sherry, and reporting that out to the audit committee at our next briefing or meeting. That would then leave us with the accounts payable and purchasing card transaction audit, which we will also be kicking off after this meeting as well. And we'll have that to report in our next audit committee meeting.
Thank you.
And I apologize. I think I said we have 3 categories. There's really only 2. The final third category I was looking at was the total. And so we have expended about 60% of our $100,000 budget, and we have about $56,000 remaining. And that is my conclusion on that part of the briefing.
Great, thank you so much. Okay. Then, so our last item, is that item 5D. And for discussion only, discussion regarding dates for the next meeting of the audit committee.
Yeah, so I try to do them quarterly, which would mean March. I know this one's always kind of in January because of the holidays, but I try to do them in March. Would that work out with you? Maybe the end of March, Audrey?
Yes, let me bring up my calendar and see, make sure I'm available.
Maybe March 19th or the 26th? Is that
Both of those dates work great.
okay? Everybody available? No big trips planned? All right.
Okay,
Is there a preference, the 19th or the 26th?
how about the 26th?
26th? Okay.
Is that okay with everyone?
Well, then we might have two audits to present, not just the one, so,
Okay, perfect.
yeah,
Mhm.
And at 1:30?
1:30, yep. Same place. Thank you.
Okay. So then, public comment. We are on agenda item 6. The public's invited at this time to comment. I'm not seeing any public. So item 7 for possible action to adjourn. Is everybody okay with that? All right, I move to adjourn.